Hey everyone, good day to all of you. I hope you're all doing well. I'm back again with my next review of the PSA AK-101. I did a review of this, first impressions, 500-ish rounds back when the firing pin broke, and now I'm here with the 1,000 round review. I'm actually a little bit over 1,000 rounds. Took me quite a while to get to this point just because I had a bunch of projects get finished up around the same time, so I was diverting my attention between a bunch of those, but finally did hit 1,000 rounds. So thus far, just for how this has been holding up, if you just want the short of it, only had one hard stop, and that was when the firing pin broke, which, like I mentioned, already talked about in the 500 round review. Right after I did that review, I did receive replacement firing pins from PSA, and it's been running since then, but some of the wear patterns are getting a little bit concerning, and I'm going to be looking at those a bit later in the video. But I've been doing all sorts of shooting with this rifle, and I'll just put up a bunch of B-roll just from, I recorded about probably 70 to 80% of all the rounds I shot through this, so I'll just play as much of it as I can fit on to the screen just while I'm talking, while I'm not trying to show anything else, and so we'll just talk about things as we go along here. So starting with, just going to go in chronological order, so I did want to talk a bit more about the firing pin issue. So like I said, pretty much right after I finished doing my 500 round review, I did receive replacement firing pins from PSA. They were pretty cool about it. They did actually send me 2 firing pins, and they also sent me a replacement firing pin retaining pin, which I'm going to show you in a bit. I don't know if somehow that part is wearing, which it shouldn't be, but that replacement retaining pin they sent me actually is particularly loose, and when the bolt is out, I can shake it and almost get the whole thing to fall out. But their firing pins themselves are working fine. I'm going to cut in some footage right now of when I first got those firing pins and just showing and inspecting them, and this will kind of be a good introduction to a few of those wear patterns that I was talking about on here. So here are the 2 that they sent me. I don't know how well this will show up in the video. One thing I am kind of concerned on, the firing pin on the left, this one right here, there's a little bit of surface rust on the tip, which is right where my previous one had broken. So I'm a little concerned about the durability on this one. I'm going to start by using this one. On this one here, I wasn't seeing any rust whatsoever, so this one should be good. This is quite a bit in the past. I'm recording this at 563 rounds. Put in the replacement firing pin, went out to the range, shot just a mag because I was doing other stuff, or well, I should say 30 rounds total, just doing several mags. I was mostly focusing on some other stuff I was doing at the time. Not a whole lot of rounds, but point is it was working. So I did also want to talk about a few things I noticed with this replacement firing pin. It's actually happening with all the other firing pins. And I also, very first, I did want to address, so in my previous 533 round review, I was talking about how the PSA firing pin appeared to be a different length than the surplus firing pins. And the reason for that, I was kind of getting curious about this because I noticed a lot of you all were commenting on that, mentioning that you know, once your firing pin broke, you just popped in a surplus one and it worked fine. On a side note, I would consider the fact that at least a dozen people commented that, and that's the fact you have to do that at all is extremely concerning. Sure, the firing pin is a cheap part, I get that, had a few comments mentioning that, but the only time I've ever had to, which I said in that other review as well, one time on my Wasser, and all the other AKs I've ever owned, I've never had to replace a firing pin because of it breaking. So anyway, going back to the topic, I made a mistake, and I did already put out corrections, but just in case you already saw that video and didn't see the correction on it, the PSA firing pin is actually the same length as a surplus firing pin. I believe this one is Polish and then this one's Russian, but point is these are both surplus com block firing pins right here with the gray finish compared to these 2 of the PSA, and I'll just line these up right here and you can see, yeah, they're all the same. The issue that I ran into that I screwed up on last time was I accidentally compared the PSA firing pin to this firing pin, which got mixed up in my AK-74 firing pins bag, and yeah, this is a completely different firing pin for an AKM. So I screwed up there. Just understand, yeah, you can actually get pretty much any firing pin and you'll be good. Now, the main thing I wanted to touch on with these firing pins is one point of concern I had was that the PSA one that I installed was kind of sticking. So what I mean by that is I would push the firing pin in all the way, and of course, you know, I'd have the actual retaining pin installed I don't right now. Doesn't really make a difference for the demonstration. Camera finally focused here. You can see that the firing pin is protruding out the front, but I'm not putting any pressure on the back of this. And, you know, this is facing downwards, gravity. It's a free-flowing firing pin. It should fall out just like that. It shouldn't be as tight as it was, where I had to kind of shake it. So what I'm noticing is with all of these firing pins, when I put this in, and when it gets to right about here, I'm starting to feel a little bit of grittiness. It gets a little tighter than it should. And I wonder if the firing pin channel, specifically the opening right here, I wonder if that's expanding ever so slightly. I'm just not able to pick up on it. I did look at this when I first got it and just visually inspected it, but I'm not really able to visually tell if this is getting larger, at least not yet, but it's something to keep in mind. And I did test it with both of these 74 firing pins off camera. Same results. I will show you that right now here as well. So you can see that's in all the way, and yeah, that is not coming out. If I give it a bit of a shake, that one comes out. I believe this is the one where it's pretty stuck. Yeah, so even with a pretty good shake, it doesn't come out. That's why I have this pin. There's a polymer takedown sort of tool there, so I can push that out there. So that's really my bigger point of concern. It's not that, oh, you know, just buy a cheap firing pin. I'm thinking it's probably not actually a firing pin issue. It's more likely something with this, something with the bolt geometry, which, as I've been reading more and more about the PSA AKs, they do things a little differently with the bolt geometry. I'm not sure why they didn't just copy the standard geometry, but I think that is to blame for the breakage. So the biggest points of concern for me with the wear are particularly on the bolt, though you're going to see there's a lot more wear in places where there really shouldn't be, especially at this low of a round count. I will just say, as a quick caveat, I have 3 AKs, including this one, and none of my other AKs have anywhere near this level of wear, despite having magnitudes more rounds shot through them. Well, let's have a look here. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is there is a ton of brass fragments still. This is something I complained about when I first got this rifle in the first impressions video, and you can see I've mostly cleaned out the important parts where I'm going to show the wear, but I did leave this part just kind of as it is. Just do understand that sort of brass fragment depositing has been happening everywhere. Now, up here, let's take a look at, so the trunnion itself so far is looking fine. I don't really see any issues with that. I'm getting weird wear on the top of the bolt carrier, which pretty normal to see some wear on the top of the bolt carrier just from how it hits on the inside of the gas tube. But I've never seen this ring right here. You can see it, however it's wearing is almost it's turned it into almost a mirror-like finish right there. As far as the rest of the bolt carrier though, some normal wear right there on the bottom. There's the peening, you can see just a little bit happening there on the back. Not too much of a concern. Rear trunnion wear on the receiver itself here, it's also not really too much of an issue. But here, looking at the bolt now, is where we start seeing some weird stuff going on. So here's how the front of the bolt is looking. It's not looking too bad. The lugs themselves are having more wear than they should, especially if you actually look at the back of the this one here at the top, you can see right there. The part I'm most concerned about though is the firing pin channel. Like I said, when I first got the replacement firing pin, I did notice it was sticking, and it's only sticking worse now. I haven't gotten any slam fires yet. It's still, so when this does go up against a chambered round, it does push back, but there should be a free floated firing pin, so it shouldn't be sticking at all. And you can see, if I just, so you can see here, I'm not holding back on it, but you can see that the firing pin is just, it's sticking out. If I shake it, it still wants to stick out. If I manually push it down, then yeah, it'll go down, but way tighter than it should be. And I'm using all factory PSA stuff, so factory PSA firing pin. And that retaining pin I did mention as well. So you can see right there, it's flush right now. But if I just do a little tap right there, it actually just flew out entirely. And then here's the firing pin itself. So you can see there's a little bit of wear there. I've never really paid too much attention to the wear pattern on my other firing pins, but I would say this does seem to be having a little bit more wear than it should, especially where the firing pin, retaining pin, is going through. You can see it's kind of wearing the finish off right there towards the front, you can see, especially with the lighting, you can see quite well where it's wearing. So, and I did check the headspace since I am getting some concerning bolt wear, and it is actually holding headspace perfectly fine. So overall, yeah, I'm going to keep shooting this. Very, very concerning about how quickly the bolt wear is showing up. But like I said, aside from that, I'm just going to keep going. I think I'm about 1,200 rounds exactly as of right now. And yeah, I'll do another review on this either when I hit a 2,000 rounds mark or when something breaks on it. So I will start checking the head spacing more frequently now, probably after maybe every other range trip. If you have any other questions on this, anything else you want me to cover when I get to the next review, then by all means do let me know. For my own thoughts on this, would absolutely not recommend, unsurprisingly, because this is wearing way quicker than it should. This looks like an AK, but absolutely does not have the durability behind it that you'd actually expect from the reputation that an AK has. So that's my own thoughts on it, but this is just kind of amusing to do. So we're just going to keep going with it. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you all in the next one. See you then.